decomposers. Every food chain begins and ends with decomposers, the organisms that break down dead matter into nutrients that fuel everything else. Fungi spread through corpses with microscopic threads called hyphae, dissolving tissue and absorbing nutrients directly. Bacteria colonize every surface of every dead thing, processing organic material at scales invisible to human eyes.
Maggots hatch inside carcasses and consume rotting flesh with such efficiency that forensic scientists use their growth stages to determine time of death. Without decomposers, dead plants and animals would pile up indefinitely, locking nutrients away from the living world forever. Forests would drown in fallen leaves. Oceans would fill with whale carcasses that never disappeared. Decomposers prevent this ecological catastrophe by recycling everything that dies back into forms that plants can absorb and use. A fallen tree becomes soil. A dead deer becomes grass. The carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus that built one body get released to build countless others. Decomposers occupy the most essential position in every ecosystem, turning death into the raw material for new life, continuously and without pause. Producers. Producers are organisms that create their own food from sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide, forming the foundation that supports every animal on Earth. Plants dominate terrestrial ecosystems, converting solar energy into sugars through photosynthesis, and storing that energy in leaves, stems, fruits, and roots. In oceans, microscopic phytoplankton perform the same function, floating near the surface where sunlight penetrates and producing roughly half of all oxygen on the planet. Algae cover rocks and streams, coat surfaces in ponds, and drift through every body of water on Earth. Without producers, the food chain would not exist, because no other organism can create energy from scratch. Every calorie consumed by every animal traces back eventually to a producer that captured sunlight and converted it into biological fuel. Producers support roughly 10 times their own biomass in consumers above them, meaning the total weight of all plants vastly exceeds the total weight of all animals. This ratio exists because energy transfer is inefficient. Most solar energy captured by plants goes toward their own survival, rather than feeding the animals that eat them. Primary consumers, small. Small primary consumers represent the first animals to convert plant matter into animal tissue, and they exist in numbers almost impossible to comprehend. Insects alone account for more individual organisms than all other animals combined, with estimates suggesting 10 quintillion insects alive at any moment. Zooplankton drift through oceans by the trillions, filtering phytoplankton and converting microscopic plant matter into tiny animal bodies that feed everything larger. Snails rasp algae from surfaces with thousands of tiny teeth arranged on a ribbon-like tongue. Caterpillars devour leaves with mandibles designed specifically for shredding plant fiber. These small herbivores form the critical link between producers and the predators that hunt them. Their collective biomass exceeds that of all larger animals on Earth because they sit closest to the energy source where losses remain minimal. Small primary consumers reproduce rapidly, mature quickly, and die in astronomical numbers, feeding the layers above them with a constant supply of protein and fat. Without these tiny herbivores, the energy captured by plants would have no pathway into the animal kingdom. Primary consumers large. Large herbivores are walking packages of concentrated nutrition, converting vast quantities of plant matter into muscle, fat, and bone that predators desperately want to consume. Deer browse forest edges and meadows, building bodies that wolves and mountain lions will eventually hunt. Zebras and wildebeest migrate across African savannas in herds of hundreds of thousands, eating grass and becoming food for lions, hyenas, and crocodiles waiting at river crossings. Elephants process hundreds of pounds of vegetation daily, their massive bodies representing enormous caloric investments that few predators can access while they live. These large herbivores shape their environments through grazing and browsing, preventing forests from overtaking grasslands and creating habitat diversity that supports countless other species. Their dung fertilizes soil and spreads seeds across landscapes. Their trails become paths that other animals follow for generations. Large herbivores occupy an uncomfortable position in the food chain, large enough to require enormous food intake, but not large enough to avoid predation entirely. Their lives consist of eating constantly while watching for anything that might eat them. Secondary consumers small. Small secondary consumers hunt the herbivores below them, converting insect protein and small plant eaters into their own flesh. Frogs sit motionless near water sources, tongues ready to snap out and capture any insect foolish enough to fly within range. Small fish patrol shallow waters eating zooplankton, larvae, and aquatic insects, concentrating scattered nutrition into larger packages. Spiders build webs or actively hunt, capturing insects and injecting digestive enzymes that liquefy their prey from the inside. Shrews burn energy so fast they must eat constantly, consuming insects, worms, and anything else they can overpower with frantic intensity. These small predators control herbivore populations that would otherwise explode and consume all available plant matter. A single spider might eat thousands of insects over its lifetime. A shrew might consume its own body weight in prey daily. Small secondary consumers bridge the gap between tiny herbivores and larger predators, making energy available in packages big enough for wolves and eagles to bother hunting. They are essential middlemen in the transfer of energy up the food chain. Secondary consumers large. Large secondary consumers are the pack hunters and ambush predators that dominate popular understanding of the food chain. Wolves coordinate attacks on deer and elk, using teamwork to bring down prey much larger than any individual could handle alone. Hyenas chase wildebeest to exhaustion in African heat, their endurance outlasting the panic sprints of their prey. Snakes wait coiled beside trails, striking with venomous fangs when rodents or rabbits pass within range. Eagles soar on thermals, scanning for movement below, diving at speeds that give prey almost no chance to react. These predators invest enormous energy in hunting, often failing more often than they succeed. Wolves might chase 10 elk before catching one. Eagles might dive a dozen times before securing a meal. This inefficiency exists because prey animals have evolved countless defenses, from speed to camouflage to group vigilance. Large secondary consumers must balance the energy spent hunting against the energy gained from successful kills. When prey becomes too difficult to catch, predators starve. This constant pressure drives the evolutionary arms race between hunters and hunted. Tertiary consumers. Tertiary consumers are predators that hunt other predators, occupying a level of the food chain where meals become increasingly difficult to obtain. Great white sharks patrol coastlines, hunting seals that themselves eat fish and squid. Orcas attack other whales, dolphins, and sharks, sitting atop marine food chains with no natural predators of their own. Big cats occasionally kill and eat smaller predators, with tigers known to hunt leopards and wolves that encroach on their territory. This level of predation serves important ecological functions by controlling populations of secondary consumers that might otherwise decimate herbivore populations. When wolves disappear from an ecosystem, deer populations explode and overgraze vegetation until the habitat degrades. Tertiary consumers prevent these cascading failures by keeping predator numbers in check. However, hunting other predators is dangerous work. A wolf can injure or kill a mountain lion that attacks it. A seal can wound a shark attempting to bite it. Tertiary consumers must be significantly larger or more skilled than their prey to succeed, which is why this level of the food chain contains relatively few species. Apex predators. Apex predators sit at the absolute top of their food chains, with nothing above them capable of hunting them as prey. Orcas dominate every ocean, hunting everything from fish to great white sharks to blue whale calves, with intelligence and coordination unmatched in marine environments. Tigers rule Asian jungles as solitary hunters capable of killing almost anything they encounter. Saltwater crocodiles ambush prey at water edges, their bite force exceeding any other living animal, and their patience legendary. Great white sharks patrol coastal waters as the ocean's most recognizable predator, though they too fall prey to orcas in some regions. Apex predators maintain ecosystem balance through what scientists call trophic cascades, where their presence influences species several levels below them. When wolves returned to Yellowstone, elk changed their grazing patterns, which allowed riverbank vegetation to recover, which stabilized soil and changed how rivers flowed through the landscape. Apex predators are rare because the energy available at the top of food chains is tiny compared to the bottom. Supporting one tiger requires the energy from thousands of deer, which requires millions of plants. Scavengers. Scavengers specialize in consuming what other animals leave behind, filling an essential role that most people find disgusting, but ecosystems absolutely require. Vultures locate carcasses using eyesight sharp enough to spot a dead zebra from miles away, then descend in groups to strip bodies clean within hours. Hyenas crack bones that other scavengers cannot break, accessing rich marrow with jaw muscles and teeth adapted specifically for this purpose. Crows and ravens patrol roadsides and forests, finding corpses of every size, from insects to deer, and consuming what remains after primary predators finish eating. Scavengers prevent disease outbreaks by removing rotting flesh that would otherwise breed pathogens and attract pests. Vulture populations crashed in India due to poisoning from veterinary drugs, and rabies cases increased dramatically because carcasses persisted long enough for feral dogs to spread disease from them. Scavengers also make predation more efficient by ensuring nothing goes to waste. A lion might eat only part of a kill before abandoning it, but scavengers guarantee every calorie eventually enters the food chain, rather than simply rotting unused on the ground. The cycle. Energy flows upward through the food chain, but loses roughly 90% at every level, which explains why apex predators are inevitably rare compared to their prey. When a deer eats grass, it captures only about 10% of the energy stored in that plant matter. The rest goes to the plant's own metabolism, becomes indigestible fiber, or dissipates as heat during digestion. When a wolf eats that deer, it captures only 10% of the energy the deer accumulated. This inefficiency compounds through each level. If grass captures 10,000 calories from sunlight, deer retain 1,000 calories, wolves retain 100 calories, and any predator eating wolves retains only 10 calories. This is why ecosystems support millions of insects, thousands of mice, hundreds of rabbits, dozens of foxes, and perhaps a handful of wolves. The energy simply cannot support more predators at the top. Eventually, everything dies, and decomposers reclaim whatever energy remains, breaking bodies down into nutrients that plants absorb to begin the cycle again. The food chain is not a ladder, but a wheel, turning continuously as energy flows from sun to producer to consumer to decomposer and back to producer forever.